Oh, yeah, that too. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because you did a lot of
Along the way,
study.
Sam Noble was going to be completed, and as we read about it in the newspaper, I thought, oh man, that would be so cool to be a docent. They're looking for people to volunteer, and I'd always been a volunteer in something, pretty much my whole life. And so I thought, I'll sign up for that. Well, my husband decided he wanted to do that too. And so what that involved, the museum was to open in June. We started in February every Saturday morning for 3 hours at the museum with heavy duty classes in earth history, biology, botany, all of Indian history, everything that Sam Noble has to offer. And it was like getting a PhD in dinosaurs. I mean, it was heavy duty. And since Bob and I both were science oriented, we fit right into that whole package, and both liked the dinosaurs, or the ancient life part of the museum, and that was the part we stayed with. It was far and away the heaviest learning load of all the docents in the museum because it was so unfamiliar. You know, a lot of people know Indian history because it's still being part of our Oklahoma life, but most of us didn't know anything about geology and all of the earth history stuff. I had a good background in biology, being in nursing. Bob was a chemist, so that was not familiar to him. And all the botany terms were not familiar to him. So we kind of had a new language to learn.
Within that experience, was there something that's very emotional in the sense of this was disastrous, or this was just fantastic, a fantastic collegial experience, or some experiences relative to education that didn't work at all?
I can't think offhand of any, other than taking philosophy classes. Anytime I was faced with a philosophy class, it just left me rolling my eyes and thinking, what in the world am I doing in this? This is ridiculous. And a couple of times I had signed up for a full seminar and dropped it after the second class. And then I thought, oh, just keep me out of philosophy classes. That's not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about picking as an adult education choice, you pick what you like, not what the program requires. Like in nursing school, the program required this tightly defined curriculum because you have to take boards and have licensure to practice your craft afterwards. Unlike if you take a history class, you don't have to worry about taking boards and buying licenses to become a history person.
But history's funner.
I don't recall any disasters
Mm-hmm.
along the way that didn't please us, that we would consider problematic, except the uncomfortable chairs that we sat in Ollie. You talking about the space? Yeah. At first, we were in one small classroom that would hold about 30 in the commons. Not the commons, the front's right there
on Asp.
Asp. What was? Or was it on Jenkins? Continuing Education Building, Cross Center, I think is the place it was. Anyway, the chairs were so uncomfortable that a 2-hour session just left me physically not charmed. And then once it shifted from morning to the professor to Ollie, and we had the budget that Ollie allowed to develop the program, we got bigger spaces and we got new chairs. And the chairs are wonderful. They're a winner.
Mm-hmm. So what are your aspirations, your educational aspirations?
For now,
Yeah.
to stay with OLLI classes as long as I can, and to continue reading. I'm an avid reader, sort of have my areas that I enjoy more. I'm particularly fond of interior design magazines, which is why I liked your program that day when you taught the morning with the professor, because that's just right up my alley.
I imagine that moving through different professions in the past created different aspirations that were driven by probably different motivations.
Well, with the art, it started just because I wanted the paintings. I wanted something pretty on my wall, and I could not afford it. And therefore, I want to learn how to paint so I could have some. Well, it would probably save me a lot of money if I'd have just bought the art in the first place. However, I got much time, interest, and materials invested in the art, and so then my husband decided it was time that I started paying my way instead of taking the costs out of grocery money. So I started showing my art and being commercial, marketing, going to galleries and things like that. So the desire to have an art, or have art on my walls, was followed by the desire to make a little bit of money out of it. And then my husband was one of the people that were cut out of Kerr-McGee with one of their big, when they got loose, a lot of people, reduction in force. And then I seriously tried to make a better contribution with it. And then when we got to be volunteers at the museum, Sam Noble just sucked all my interest. I had no more time for art. And I really never have gotten big time back in it. I mean, I've still stayed as a volunteer at Sam Noble while I was an artist, but the art part just kind of dwindled away. And so I haven't painted in the last probably 5 or 6 years hardly.
Did your educational interests change? I hear in your story that they likely did over the years, and then for now, you're with OLLI and you want to participate. Do you have specific educational interests?
Yes, in
within
OLLI,
OLLI?
I'll pick out science and history. I don't get involved with things like creative writing or calligraphy or things like that. Those I still like the heavy duty classes, the more serious classes. Probably because of my basic interest in science. But then when your decorating class came along, that one was such a winner. I was hoping you'd do another program sometime before they take you off to Denton and we lose it.
Chris was trying to get me back, but we, with the PhD, it got so involved. I had to take 2 classes myself a semester and then teach and do the research. And so
you stretch only so far.
I couldn't. I said, I don't know how to fit it in, really, unless you want to teach me on a Saturday afternoon. And he said, nobody's around on a Saturday.
No, you don't do the weekend classes. So.
Do you have, if you move forward with going to classes, what are the goals, if you want to describe those?
Sociability. I'm 83. I am a widow. I need to stay in contact with people for my own enrichment and pleasure. going to lunch, making friends. However, at age 83, I realized that, that may be winding down. I've been doing it since Ollie started, and it's just been a wonderful experience. Just everything about it has been wonderful. And so I'll feel bad when I don't take Ollie, but I can see that probably that's in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It also, that colors my choice right now. I would never want to move out of Norman, and there's no good retirement homes in Norman like there are on the north side of Oklahoma City. And I kept thinking, I couldn't do that because I couldn't make it to Ollie. Not going to miss that.
There seems to be a very strong motivation in that too. What keeps you, or what is your motivation to engage? In a way, I feel they could be close to your goals, but if you would describe your motivations to engage in education in general, not necessarily with Ollie, but in general.
The learning, I just think learning is fun. It opens new awarenesses and enriches your understanding of the world and the people in it. I do like being around people. I just very much enjoy people. I'm an only child, as my husband was, and we had to move outside of ourselves to be around people because we didn't have a lot of siblings and all that going on in our life. And so I guess both of us learned to move out into the world to stay in contact with people.
You already started a little bit about preferences in education spaces or learning environments with the chairs in Ollie. If you give that a broader breadth in the sense of thinking way back when classrooms may have looked different than they do now, and if you could give me an overview that stretches through your educational experience from back then to now, including your Ollie experiences, when you look at the spaces in a broader sense, from furniture to colors to softness or stiffness of furniture or materials to lighting